I thought I was the loyal wife. The one he chose. The one he built a life with. But at 65, a DNA test showed I'd been the other woman all along. My name is Evelyn Parker, a retired librarian from Charleston, South Carolina. People always said I lived a quiet, graceful life, the kind built on Sunday mornings, tea in porcelain cups, and the same man's smile for almost 40 years. Thomas and I were that couple everyone admired. He passed 8 years ago, and I thought I'd already mourned every secret the grave could hold. A few weeks ago, my granddaughter Lily brought me a small white box and a grin. "Grandma, let's do a DNA ancestry test, just for fun," she said. I laughed, thinking it would be a sweet way to trace our roots back to Ireland or England. When the results came, Lily's joy faded into something strange. Her brows furrowed, her fingers trembling over the laptop. "Grandma, your closest family matches are Marshalls." The name meant nothing to me at first, until the world tilted. "That name," I whispered, my chest tightening. "That belonged to my husband's first wife, the woman I thought he divorced long before me." The first time I met Thomas Parker, it was raining so hard the Charleston streets looked like silver ribbons. I was 28, fresh out of heartbreak, working long hours at the city library. He walked in, soaked through his shirt, holding a little boy with the bluest eyes I'd ever seen. "Sorry, ma'am," he said with that gentle southern drawl, "my son needed shelter more than I needed pride." That moment became the beginning of my forever. Thomas was everything a woman like me prayed for: steady, tender, a man who listened. He'd been through a rough divorce, he said, and all he wanted was peace. I gave him that peace. I gave him me. We built a quiet, faithful life, a white bungalow near the marsh, 2 children, Sarah and Ben, Sunday dinners with roast chicken, laughter, and the soft hum of gospel music drifting through open windows. For 37 years, I believed I was the lucky one. I believed love had chosen me. When Thomas passed, I buried not just a husband but a chapter one thought was complete. His wedding band still rests on my nightstand, his letters sleep beside my Bible. I never imagined his truth was still breathing somewhere, waiting for a DNA kit to dig it up. So when Lily called me to the computer that afternoon, her tone shaking, I didn't understand why. "Grandma, I think there's a mistake," she said. "The system says you have a half-sister. And her father's name is Thomas Parker." I laughed, the kind of nervous laugh that doesn't reach the heart. "That's impossible," I told her. "I am his wife." But the screen didn't flinch. It showed Caroline Marshall, age 64, DNA match, half-sibling, 47% shared. The name made my stomach twist. Marshall. I remembered seeing it years ago, scribbled on an old envelope in Thomas's desk, to Mrs. Marshall. When I'd asked, he said it was business. I believed him. After all, Thomas was honest, godly, devoted. He'd once mentioned his first wife had kept her maiden name, Caroline Marshall, but it was a detail so small, I'd let it slip from memory. Until now. Lily scrolled further down the profile. "Grandma," she uploaded pictures. I leaned closer to the screen, my heart pounding in my ears. There she was, Caroline Marshall, her smile soft, her hair streaked with gray, and her eyes the same shape as mine. But it wasn't the resemblance that shattered me. It was the photograph behind her. On a wooden mantel, beside her shoulder, stood a framed picture of a younger Thomas Parker. My Thomas. The same half-smile. The same tie I'd once straightened before our anniversary dinner. I felt the world slip sideways. The cursor blinked on the screen like a heartbeat. "The database doesn't lie," Lily whispered. And neither did that face, that mirror of mine, 20 years younger. I stared at Caroline Marshall's profile for days before I could gather the courage to write her. Every time I began a message, my hands trembled too much to finish. What would I even say? "Hello, I'm the woman your husband also married?" Finally, one sleepless night, I typed through blurred eyes. "Hello, Caroline. I believe we share a DNA connection. My late husband's name was Thomas Parker. does that sound familiar?" Her reply came the next morning. Polite, cautious, the kind of message women our age send when they sense pain waiting behind the words. "Thomas Parker? You mean my husband?" I read that line over and over. My husband. The same name. The same man. Through the messages that followed, truth unfolded in pieces. Caroline explained that she had been married to Thomas since 1972, she'd kept her maiden name, Marshall, for professional reasons. He traveled often, she wrote, engineering contracts, oil plants, sometimes months at a time. But he always came home. I felt a chill spread through me. I remembered how Thomas would kiss my forehead and say, "Honey, I'll be in Savannah for a few days, consulting." Consulting, indeed. He was consulting with his other life. When I told Caroline we'd married in 1981, she went silent for a long while. Then, a simple reply appeared. "He never divorced me." My world tilted. He had maintained two households for decades. Caroline's in Georgia, mine in South Carolina, barely 3 hours apart. Every Christmas, he told me he was visiting his son from his first marriage. I'd pack cookies and watch his car disappear into the dawn. Now I realized, he wasn't visiting his son. He was spending half the holidays with Caroline. For a week, I couldn't eat. Couldn't pray. My house felt smaller, the air heavier. I kept staring at his photograph and whispering, why wasn't I enough? But I needed answers. So, I told Lily I was going to Georgia. When I arrived at Caroline's home, a white clapboard house with hydrangeas lining the porch, she opened the door before I could knock. For a moment, we just looked at each other. It was like facing a version of myself I never knew existed, her poise, her eyes, her age-worn grace. She invited me in. The house smelled of lemon polish and lilacs. And then I saw it, on the mantel, surrounded by family photos, a framed picture of Thomas Parker. His smile gentle, familiar, wearing the same navy blue tie I'd buried him in 8 years ago. The room spun. "That's the tie from his funeral," I whispered. Caroline's brow furrowed. "Funeral? Evelyn, Thomas is buried here, in Georgia." If you're still watching, you won't believe what Evelyn finds next, a secret that rewrites everything she thought love meant. Subscribe and stay to the end, this story only gets deeper. 2 graves. 1 man. The truth was only beginning to show its face. Caroline took me to the small churchyard outside Savannah. There, beneath the magnolias, stood a gravestone. Thomas J. Parker, 1949 to 2016. But my Thomas, the same man, had died in 2017. "I buried him here," Caroline said softly. "Heart failure." The doctor said the remains couldn't be viewed. I pressed my hand against the stone. The date, the name, the lie. "He used his middle initial," I whispered. That's how he kept the two worlds apart. When I got home, I tore through his old files and found 2 driver's licenses. One for Thomas Parker, South Carolina. Another for Thomas J. Parker, Georgia. He'd lived 2 lives under 2 names, one with Evelyn Parker, the other with Caroline Marshall, who'd kept her maiden name. At Henderson and Company, the lawyer's face turned ghostly when I laid the IDs on his desk. "Mrs. Parker," he sighed, "Thomas's situation was unusual. He maintained dual residencies. He had wills in both states. Each listed a wife. Each legally valid. I tried to dissuade him, but he said both of you depended on him." I stood frozen. "You mean you helped him build this lie?" "I couldn't stop him," the lawyer said quietly. "He was careful. He filed everything properly. He fooled the system itself." As I left the office, I remembered our wedding day, the trembling in his hands when he'd whispered, "You make me whole again." Now I understood. He wasn't whole. He was split between 2 women, 2 names, 2 lives. Caroline called again days later. "The children would like to meet you," she said gently. When I arrived, her grandchildren greeted me with shy smiles. Then one boy turned, and my heart stopped. His smile, his dimple, was Ben's smile. As I looked around, my gaze caught on the refrigerator. Among photos and magnets was a birthday card in my handwriting. "Happy birthday, my love, Evelyn." But I never sent it. That's when I saw the picture on the fridge, my own handwriting on a birthday card I never sent. Caroline called a week later. "Evelyn," she said softly, "there's one more thing. He left a letter for both of us." When I arrived, she handed me an envelope, aged and yellow, labeled in his familiar script. "To my two wives." Inside, his words trembled across the page. "If you're reading this, I'm gone. I loved you both, in ways I never understood. Caroline, you were my beginning. Evelyn, you were my peace. One taught me forgiveness, the other gave me rest. I couldn't choose, so I didn't. Please, don't let my lies erase the love." My breath caught. "For 37 years, I was the other woman," I whispered. "I just didn't know it." But as the ache softened, I felt something new, peace. The years weren't lies, they were half-truths, and love had lived between the halves. A month later, Caroline invited me to the pier near Beaufort. The county had returned Thomas's ashes from Charleston, officially mine, legally his only surviving wife. "I think we should share them," she said. The sunset glowed on the water as we stood side by side, two women bound by one man's double life. "This is where he proposed to me," I murmured. Caroline gave a sad smile. "He proposed to me here too. Different years. Same promise. Same lie." We opened the urn and let the ashes scatter into the tide. The wind carried them far, farther than his secrets ever did. In that moment, I didn't feel betrayed anymore. I felt whole in a way he never could be. "DNA didn't just expose his secret," I said quietly. "It gave me a sister, a mirror, and the peace I didn't know I needed." Would you forgive a love built on lies? Tell me in the comments, and if this story moved you, subscribe for more true life tales that touch the heart.